Okay, this is our video over the history of engineering and architecture. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. You should pause and rewind whenever you need to go back and read the material or take notes on it. You should take notes. Some of this material has already been covered in the other videos or is covered on your vocabulary page that I'm giving you. So you don't have to write down every single item. But if it's not in the vocab and we haven't written it on one of our previous notes, then you definitely should make sure you have the information down. So as I said, pause and rewind is needed. So first of all, here's our two definitions. We've already seen this in previous videos. And the beginnings of civil engineering and architecture originated with our ancient civilizations, often with stone buildings, caves, and even the huts and tents that we might have seen in ancient civilizations. And often the building materials that they were choosing was because they were readily available in that area. For example, here's the ruins of Babylon, which is now in the area of Iraq in the Middle East. These were made with mud bricks because the area didn't have a lot of trees or stone. And the building materials were chosen: grease, limestone, and marble. In Machu Picchu, we were looking at stone because this is in the mountains. China made it out of wood and paper because they had a lot of wood and a lot of materials to make paper out of. And then in the Arctic and in the Antarctic, we saw things being made out of ice because that's what it was available. And in Africa, we see things often made out of reeds and bamboo and lightweight materials because, again, this was available there. Look at each of these and where they are and determine for yourself what you think that these areas had abundance of. And this one. What we're seeing here is that by just looking at the architecture in an area, we can tell what is available in that sort of area. So one of our vocab words is bearing wall, and we see it in the stepped pyramids. And you can look up on your vocab for what a bearing wall is, but basically it's a solid wall that is bearing the weight of the building. Itself is holding up all the weight. You notice very small doors compared to the size of the wall, and no windows. And that's what we see in these pyramids. And here are some examples from some modern pyramids. One is the Louvre Museum in Paris and the Luxor Hotel in Los Angeles. Now in the Parthenon, what we see are posts and lintels. Posts are the uprights and the lintels go across the top. Again, this is another of our vocab words. And this basically was a solution. When we had bearing walls, we couldn't get windows there because the wall had to support all the weight. The first solution was basically this post and lintel construction, where the uprights are having the weight, and then the top is creating for the roof to stand up on. These roofs have collapsed eventually, but this was the solution so that we could have more ventilation coming through here and windows and being able to see inside. Arches is another solution. Arches are extremely strong. You'll notice at the top of each one we have a keystone at the top. This is where all the weight is coming together at the top. And these, in fact, are put together by the weight of the stones themselves. These don't have to be cemented together with any kind of mortar. In fact, the weight itself is what holds them up. These are built by putting a wooden structure underneath while they're getting them there, and then once they're up, the very weight of it and the design of it holds it up. We see arches on many of the very old structures from the Romans and that sort of time period. Arches and keystones are both some of your vocab words. And a vault is basically a series of arches put together to make a long hallway. Here we see a picture and a design here. We can also see them coming together to be crossed like this, And that's called a cross vault, where two of these hallways would intersect. Basically, the bonus here is, again, all this roof weight is coming down on these upright parts, and we don't have to support the roof separately. Domes. We're familiar with what a dome looks like. It's like a half sphere. Again, this is another one of our vocab words. Pantheon, here we can see the structure of it. And the Pantheon was created with Portland cement. Well, it was created with volcanic ash, lime, and a small amount of water. Today we have Portland cement, which kind of has the same materials there. And basically, this is the first time we see these blocks being glued together. The Colosseum. What features do you see on here that we've talked about so far? Hopefully you're seeing the arch construction here, and each set of arches is holding up the row above it. These are also the parts going back in there, the vaults going back in there that we talked about. And here's a picture of the Colosseum from when it was first built. The one we just saw was a picture of what it looks like today, but this is a painting. And again, we can see the arches or the vaults there as we go around. The Great Wall of China. It was built about the 5th century BC. And it continued all the way being added to until the 16th century. And it was made out of stones and bricks. The water supplies in ancient Rome. Again, this was the aqueducts that were bringing water in. So our very earliest water supply systems was built in ancient Rome. And notice what design we see again. Water is extremely heavy when you're moving it. And they were relying completely on gravity to bring this water down. So it had to be very tall at the top to get the water to flow. And here again we see the arches. Again, this is about 300 BC to 200 AD. So this was constructed over about a 500-year time. And almost 180 million gallons of water poured through Rome daily from this. So this is 180 million gallons daily. This is a huge sized structure that was providing safe, fresh water, at least fresh water, into Rome to be used. Ancient road systems. Ancient roadways were used by the Persians and the Romans, and the width of them was designed to carry the vehicles of that time, and they were very deep and very strong. Many of these roads still exist today because they were built so deep into the ground out of stone. Now we're going to look at some bridge designs. These are some of our oldest bridges, and guess what shape we have here? That's right, we've got the arches again. These bridges are so old and these arches were so strong that these have completely withstood time. After the fall of Rome, we start seeing the bridges being made out of other materials, like here we have cast iron, which was too expensive before this, but again, look at the structure. Again, we're seeing the arch shape because this is an extremely strong and safe shape. And then today, we start seeing steel structures. Here's the Empire State Building, completed in the 1930s. And then we get to reinforced concrete. So this is concrete that has steel inside it. That's the reinforcing. It's got rebar inside it to reinforce the concrete. Concrete is very strong in compression, not good for torsion or tensile strength. So we have to add the steel inside it to reinforce it for those bending concerns. And now we have reinforced concrete bridges. All the bridges and overpasses you're seeing today that appear to be concrete, they're all reinforced with steel. And that's it. Make sure that you've rewound and paused to get all the information.